Everything is so temporary on this earth. We're all going to die someday. Every life form has an end. I think most of us go through life, or the majority of life, forgetting the fact that we're mortal beings. And that causes us to be so focused on things that ultimately doesn't matter at all. We get so wrapped up in these stories that we tell ourselves, and all of these things that we chase in life, validation, approval, materialistic things, all of these things that we chase, ultimately we can't bring with us when we die. And we realize sooner or later that it was a distraction from what's actually important. And I think the purpose of life for me is to find myself, my true self, not the egoic identity self or things I've attached myself to, identities I've created that are just illusions. And I've experienced this firsthand because I used to be so different. Just 3 years ago, I was so different. And all these labels that I used to identify myself with no longer apply. It just shows how everything changes. Everything changes. And if something can change or no longer be accurate, that means it was never the truth. Truth would always be the same. And what is the one constant in your life? In everyone's life is just awareness. It's just that sense of, I'm here. There is something experiencing all of this, and that is the true self. I'm very aware of that fact. However, I think it takes a lot more work. Or not work, because I know that technically it's not something we effort ourselves into doing, but rather it's more of a uncovering, a removal of all the things that are veiling our vision right now to realize the truth. But I do think it'll take some time and practice to integrate that truth and really live in that truth. Because right now, I'm still so identified with my thoughts and my emotions. I tend to realize after the fact. Like today has been kind of an intense day because a lot of things didn't go as planned, and I found myself being very anxious and frustrated at how things turned out. But I just try to remind myself, like, okay, everything is a dream. This is a dream. This is just a story that I'm living. It's like watching a movie. This is just a movie that's playing out. ultimately none of this matters. Like, even if the worst case scenario were to come true, it is still just a story that I'm experiencing. And when I remind myself of this fact, I'm able to detach from the situation and my emotions a little bit, and then just try to accept. Like, not judge anything, and believe that whatever happens, there is a way to work things out. Like, even if it's not the way I intended to work things out, but things will work out some way, somehow. And actually, it did work out today. So what happened was, I had this laser appointment at 11:45, and I was 30 minutes late because traffic was horrible. I think there was construction or an accident on the highway, but the whole freeway was closed. So yeah, it was horrible. And I scheduled another appointment right after the laser appointment. So I was freaking out because this place is pretty far from where I live, and I didn't want to have to cancel the appointment and pay a late fee and having to make the drive again. And I'm going to be traveling in 2 weeks, so I'm not gonna even be here. But anyway, I was just like, oh my god, what do I do if I can't make it? And when I got there, the front desk girl was like, yeah, we can't see you because you're so late, but we do have an available slot later today at 1:30, which was perfect because my other appointment ends at 1:30, so I could just like leave a little bit earlier and make the laser appointment. So yeah, everything did work out today. I'm super grateful for that. And I think it has to do with the fact that I stopped resisting it so much. I feel like if I had kept worrying and kept being frustrated and angry and, blaming the universe for creating such an unfavorable situation for me, if I kept doing that, maybe I would have manifested something else. But because I was really, really trying to surrender and trust that my world will take care of me and whatever happens, it's fine. And I think that helped probably manifest a good situation. And also, there's a Taiwanese spiritual YouTube channel called Violet Twin Flames. I highly, highly recommend that channel. One of my favorite spiritual gurus, and he's a real deal. But anyway, he taught this technique that you can use to turn negative situations around. And he calls it the quota method. And the idea is that there's like a spectrum of positive and negative, right? Because in this world of duality, we're just going to have positive and negative. And usually what happens is like we're kind of in the center of negative and positive. So we would swing back and forth between the negative and the positive, because whenever something negative happens, we react negatively, which manifests the next negative situation. And when something positive happens, we react positively with positive emotions, which manifests the next positive thing. And it just kind of like swings back and forth. But the trick that he taught was, when something negative happens, think of it as you're fulfilling your negative quota. So like next time when something negative happens to you, you can think like, oh, this is a good thing because now I'm filling up my negative quota. So now I'm going to be swinging more on the positive side. And if you keep doing that, you're essentially telling yourself a different story and taking a different perspective on the negative situation that's happening and turning it into a positive. So I was doing that today too. I was telling myself, this is a negative quota. So like this negative thing happening is going to, it's like a symbol for something really, really good happening in my life soon. So I'm excited to see what that will be. And today I'm struggling with thoughts about my recent relationship issue. Like, I found myself replaying memories and just ruminating over things that I said and things that I should have or could have done differently. But that's insane because, like, if I could have done better, I would have. So the fact that it didn't happen and I didn't do better it's because at that time that was the best that I can do. And that doesn't just apply to the relationship issue, it applies to everything in life. Like, we are all always doing our best given our current level of consciousness, awareness, information, everything we've ever done up until that point. And then from there, we make the decisions that we made. So it's really unreasonable to beat myself up and feel guilty for doing something because that's what was meant to happen, literally. Anyway, but I was like driving and I found myself just kept thinking like, oh, what if I said that? What if I did this? Would things be different? And it just made me feel so terrible. So how I dealt with that was like, I just kept bringing myself back to my breath and trying to relax my body. That's something super helpful for me because I realized that when I'm experiencing negative emotions, a lot of times my body tenses up. And by relaxing into it as much as I can actually feel my energy shifting right away and my heart is like opening. It's really hard. It's hard to describe, but it's a really incredible shift that I experience. Like, I just feel so much more tender. And in that space, I'm able to just give myself the space to experience what I'm experiencing and not judge or make myself wrong as much. And yeah, just breathing, relaxing, and then I put on some music that I really like that are uplifting. Like, I have this one song on Spotify of the Green Tara Mantra, and that always makes me cry. I just feel like when I play that song, I just feel like it feels like being seen by a mom who's so loving and non-judgmental, and I just feel like I'm a little baby and I'm just like crying to my mom who's there for me, to listen to me, to hold me. And as I was like driving, listening to that song, just like tears streaming down my face. But that was very healing. I think every time I cry is a very healing experience. It just feels like I'm letting out repressed emotions and just allowing myself to have that experience, to work through that energy. So yeah, I'm feeling much better about it now. And I know it's probably going to come and go. Like, I'll be fine. And then something triggers the thought. And if I'm not careful, I follow the thought and it just kind of snowballs into storytelling. And So, but that's okay, you know. I'm always trying to my best to stay aware, but if it's not there, then it's not there. But I can always come back. Like, I have the tools and at least enough awareness to catch myself sooner or later. And I was telling a friend about, oh, right here, about this book yesterday. And so that just reminded me to reread this because this is so powerful. So I'm gonna reread this and maybe share some thoughts. But yeah,